This is Robert Clinkebeard and David Anderson with the Commercial Landscapers Podcast. We're going to take 20 minutes of your life to deliver some amazing business content from accomplished leaders to bring you value, scale your business, and better yourself personally. We hope you really enjoy the show, and I encourage you to share with your network so they can subscribe and we can expand these messages globally. We are also super excited to be supported by two brilliant sponsors. If you're tired of measuring properties, Site Recon platform fully automates measurements so you can focus on sales. So think measurements, think Site Recon. The other sponsor is Company Cam, who make it dead simple to communicate, document, and problem solve with guys in the field, no matter where you are. Company Cam brings documentation, communication, and liability protection together in one simple, easy to use app for you and your entire team. Company Cam is the only app every landscaper needs. Check it out. Good afternoon, everyone. Robert Clinkebeard, David Anderson with the Commercial Landscapers Podcast. I am really excited to be joined today by Clineff. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Clineff.
Clineff.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
So, you're obviously in the hort industry. Tell me a little bit about, where you're at right now and how long you've been in the industry.
Sure. So I'm currently working for Myatt Landscaping. I've been there for just over 3 years, and mostly I work in recruiting, a little bit of marketing, and employee development for the company. Overall, I've been in the industry for, I guess, about 7 or 8 years. Before I was in this position, I worked more on the landscape design, project management side of things. So this is my first role where I'm really working more on the employee side.
Yeah, well, that's definitely a challenging side to the business.
It is.
What made you get into the landscape business?
I've always been really interested in the outdoors and gardening, and even in high school was really involved in organizations like 4-H and the National Junior Horticultural Association. So I majored in horticulture science for college, went to NC State, and from there just opened up a whole world of possibilities and ended up going into landscaping.
Cool, very cool. Yeah, certainly I found it really rewarding industry, a lot of great people in it, and
Absolutely.
You get especially during COVID, you have that nice balance and to be able to obviously do some indoor stuff if you want to, but you've now got the option of going outdoors and checking out some beautiful landscapes. So
right,
very cool. So transitioning from this wonderful world of doing nice designs and beautifying everything into it's a pretty tough business going into the HR, the recruitment part, because that's something I come across a lot of companies, not just in the landscape industry, but multiple industries, and their biggest challenge is finding good people at all different levels in the company. So you're obviously on the front line of that, and I'd love to hear your story.
Sure. It's definitely been a challenge. I am the first person at Myatt Landscaping who has worked really exclusively on this area of recruitment and retention. And they actually created the position and hired me because they were having so many issues with that. And so since I came on board, immediately we had, I think, 13 open positions when I first started. And this isn't a company that has on average about 130 total employees. So that's a pretty big percentage of your workforce that we needed to fill. So just jumped right into that. And we started making some changes and focusing a lot on retention, because I think retention has to come first before you can really be successful with recruiting, because if your employees are not happy for whatever reason, even if you hire a lot of great people, they're just going to leave again and you'll be right back in the same position. So retention really has to come first when you're developing a plan on how you're going to deal with your workforce issues. And so some of the things we did with that, we went through and increased all of our pay scales for different positions, just to be more competitive with other companies in the area. And then we increased, or we lowered the eligibility for our paid time off because originally we had a pretty long waiting period before they were eligible for taking any paid time off or having paid holidays. So we lowered that eligibility so they would get that sooner. And then we just started doing a lot more things that kind of showed our employees that we want to support them in their career path and show them that we have opportunities in the company and they don't have to leave to find something better. So we worked really hard on restructuring our performance review process and just making sure that we talked about open positions in the company in case somebody in a different position might be interested in moving over to a different role. And that really helped a lot. We saw a lot more internal promotions. And we have a lot more people that are pursuing certifications now. We actually will pay the cost for any of our employees to take classes or just for the exam fees. We'll cover all of that if they're interested in getting certified in whatever type of certification that might be, whether it's the backflow prevention certifications for irrigation techs or certified plant professional, which is given through our one of our state associations. So anything that they're interested in doing, we want to show that we support them in growing within the company and making sure that they know that, if they work hard and they stick around, they can get promoted and move up and have a lot more opportunities.
No, that's great. That's great. I know some of the skeptics there will say, well, now I've in the past, I've trained people and given them whatever certification, and as soon as they get that, they leave. Do you have any magic formulas around how to sort of keep some of those employees around?
I think the most important thing is to find out why they're leaving. If they're getting certified and then going somewhere else, what is that other company offering them that you're not? Because if people feel appreciated and they're getting support from their company, why would they leave unless they're being offered something that sounds a lot better?
Right.
So I think it's important when you have employees that are leaving and sometimes it's not possible because they don't give you a lot of notice sometimes, but if possible, try to sit down and talk with them and see what are the reasons that they're leaving. And sometimes you're able to have a conversation and they decide, oh, maybe I don't want to leave. I'm actually going to stay here instead. So it's really important, not to be offended when an employee comes and tells you, hey, I'm taking this other job, instead of saying, oh, well, fine, we don't want you anyway, kind of thing, sit down with them and have a conversation, find out what it is that's making them want to leave.
Okay, that's fair. Well, how would you describe your relationship with, for example, like the foreman, supervisor level, because typically they're the ones who, achieve that initial contact, oh, we want to leave. And a lot of them don't necessarily put that time and effort into getting to know their employees. So do you work hand in hand with them? Do you insert yourself a little bit more and go direct to the employees? How do you feel as it works best?
So mainly our account managers are more responsible for handling that than I am. I typically only will get involved if the employee contacts me directly. Okay. But I do encourage our account managers, very much to build those relationships with their employees, make sure that they do know everybody that's working on their crews. And in our company, they are very much out in the field with the crews. So they do see them, if not on a daily basis, at least on a weekly basis. So they are out there in the field, spending time with them. They help a lot with the training of new employees. So I think that helps a lot when, they're getting to know them and have those conversations with them and feel like they have a little bit more of a relationship with those new employees. And so I think it does help that they know them more than maybe some other companies do. I know some people have their account managers working more in the office and then they have production managers or somebody else that's handling what's happening in the field. But for us, we find that it really does help a lot if that's that same person that's handling the the conversations with the employees about if they're thinking about leaving, they really know that person and they can talk to them and maybe find out some kind of solution and help them ultimately stay with the company.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. How about, you talked about how you went through and, excuse me, how you went through and you reviewed a lot of your employees and maybe make some wage adjustments. But, obviously that's pretty tough to keep going. How do you tie in any type of pay increases with any type of training that you offer? I don't know if you've got any formalized training programs that once they go a certain level, then eligible to get a pay raise. And how do you tie all that in together?
So we do have a structure where it depends on what the position is, of course. So we'll have kind of that entry level crew member pay rate, or pay scale. And so when they kind of start hitting the upper range of that, that's when we start looking at, are you ready to become a crew leader in training? And that has a pay raise with it, and they'll get into the next pay scale. And so it goes on like that. We do have some employees who have stayed in a crew member position and haven't gone into a leadership role, who have been there for, 10 years, 12 years, because they don't really want to be in a leadership role, but they're very, very good with their horticultural skills. So they will actually get pay raises that are above what our standard pay scale is for that position, just because they have so much knowledge and are really good at helping new employees and helping with the training side, but they just don't want to be involved with, the paperwork and all that goes along with being a crew leader. As far as certifications, we do offer a $1 per hour raise for any certification that you get. So, those stack up if you want to do multiple certifications.
Really yeah, that's awesome. That's good.
$1 per hour for each one.
Yeah, that's awesome. Really good. So I'm going to go a slightly different direction now. So, again, a lot of employers will maybe traditionally gone with the HTB route, and the last few years have been really inconsistent whether they're getting HTB employees in. So now they're starting to think about other methods. What other techniques or maybe out of the box ideas have you thought or I suppose developed to find employees?
So I guess one thing that helped us is that we never participated in the H2B program. So we haven't had to, I guess, change our tactics significantly. I know a lot of people have been struggling with the H2B program in recent years. But one thing that has helped us is just having a very strong employee referral program. So we pay pretty significant bonuses for any of our employees who will refer someone to come and work for us. We do payouts after the first 30 days after the person's hired, another one after 6 months, and another one after a year. So all of those added together could be $1,000 if the person stays for a year or longer. So that has been extremely beneficial for us. We changed that, I think, about 2.5 years ago. It had been just one payout before then, and not very many referrals really came through. And now we're getting a lot. It's well over half of our new employees are all referrals. And they tend to have a much, much higher rate of retention. And they tend to just fit right into our culture because, if they're friends or family of people that already work there, they tend to have some of those similar characteristics. So that's been really, really helpful for us. Another one is working to develop relationships with local high schools, community colleges, and we also happen to be nearby NC State, which is helpful as well since they have the horticulture program. So I do a good amount of work, obviously less now because of COVID, But before that started, we were doing high school field trips with high school groups, horticulture, agriculture, FFA classes. So they would come to our facilities and just learn about different opportunities, different types of positions within landscape companies. And then we would do some hands-on activities, plant ID or planting an annual container that they could take home with them, things like that, just to kind of spark their interest a little bit more. And then building off of those initial programs, we also have high school and college internship programs now. And so some of those same students can come back and actually work for the company. And then once they graduate or if they're looking for a job a few years later, they can come back and we already know they're a great employee because they worked for us before.
Yeah, that's
so
great.
It really works out great.
No, I like that, especially the high school internship. I mean, I've heard of, apprenticeship type programs. A lot of employers are beginning to kick that off again, but I like that high school because I know there's definitely been a gap between the high schools and a lot of companies out there. So yeah,
absolutely.
Cool. How about onboarding? Because I think that sometimes tends to be a challenge for companies where they're so desperate for employees. Suddenly they'll bring them in, and within half a day they're out in the field already working all these big machines. How have you done anything along those lines? Because I think I'm a believer that if you do that onboarding program right, that helps with retention.
I do think that's very important, and that is something that we have struggled with a little bit, and we're still trying to figure out the best way to do that. I'm working remotely now because of COVID, but before that, whenever we would have new employees come on board, I would usually spend at least half a day with them explaining the background of the company and our different procedures and things that we have, safety requirements, things like that. Now, of course, it's all a little bit more challenging because it's hard to be in a room together with people, and it's just kind of all got put on hold for now, but we're definitely hoping to revisit that and revamp our onboarding process because I do believe it's very important. Another challenge that we face is more than half of our workforce is Spanish speaking only. I don't speak Spanish, unfortunately. So we have to pull in somebody else who can translate or do the orientation themselves. So we're still trying to figure that out as well with the language barrier. So I do try to make sure that all of our materials, all of our training materials, announcements, anything like that is bilingual. And I have a translator that I work with who helps with anything where we really need to make sure that the wording is correct. Otherwise, I can, use some Google Translate, and I have taken a few Spanish classes. I'm not fluent, but it helps.
Yep, absolutely. Any other secret sauce? Any other real, tactics that you've uncovered that you feel as though have done really well that you want to share with our listeners?
I think it's a really challenging thing. There's so many different aspects to it, but it sounds kind of simple. But appreciating your employees, I think, is one of the really key things that I think people don't think about enough. I think people tend to leave their positions more when they don't feel appreciated at work. And it makes sense. I mean, if you don't feel appreciated, why would you want to stick around and put in, all of your hard labor every day when you feel like, at the end of the day, your company doesn't really care about you. So it is important to just keep making that concerted effort every day to acknowledge your employees, try to speak to them and encourage them and, let them know that, just them showing up every day and coming to work is valuable and it is appreciated. And I think that really goes a long way.
Yeah. And that could even be middle, senior managers. I mean,
100%.
They say that 80% of employees that leave is typically through bad bosses. So.
I believe it 100%.
Any final parting words before we sign off here?
The only other thing I would like to mention is I think going forward into the future, it's really important to think about diversifying your workforce, trying to make your company a more open and welcoming place for women, minorities, anyone that is not currently in your workforce. Maybe just think about why aren't they in your workforce, and what can you do to make your company more open and welcoming to those groups. And if you're looking for resources on learning more about how to do that, check out the NALP's Women in Landscape Network if you're interested in getting more women involved, because I think that is the future of the industry. And then the Hispanic Landscape Alliance, I believe, is now part of NALP as well. So that might be a great resource as well.
No, I agree 100%. We had some unbelievable women employees in our company, and initially there was that, can they operate mowers and some of the big machinery, but they were unbelievable. So big believer in that. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
How can people get hold of you if they want to hear more about your story and pick your brain a little bit more?
LinkedIn is the best way to contact me. If you just search my name, Caitlin A. Clineff, I'm the only one, so no confusion there. And they can feel free to just send me a message, and I will be happy to discuss anything further.
Cool. Well, thank you, Caitlin, for your time today. That's been super helpful, really informative conversation we had today. So really appreciate your time. And to all of our listeners, if I'd love you to subscribe to our Commercial Landscapers podcast, and please share this with friends and family, and we'll build this audience. So thank you again, Caitlin, and have a wonderful day.
All right. Thanks so much for having me.
Hopefully that was pure dead brilliant for you today, and we've got some great takeaways for your business and your personal life. This is Robert Clinkebeard along with David Anderson, and we'd love to get you and your friends to join us on our journey. 2 quick things before you go, listeners. Check out our website, thecommerciallandscaper.com. You can subscribe, you can share with your friends, but more importantly, check out our sponsors. We have Site Recon, who are going to help to capture measurements on your property and create a really streamlined process. And we have Company Cam, who make it dead simple to communicate, document, and problem solve with guys in the field, no matter where you are. Thanks, everyone. Cheers.